So, Nathalie, first of all, welcome at Butik. It's really an honor to have you here, especially since I've been really actively listening to your sets in the past, I guess, month or so, and it's building, the expectations been building up. So I'm really excited about today's show. And I just had an interview with Ryan earlier, and we discussed a little bit about your preparations and your show, which you had like 2 days ago or something. So how did it go, the last one?
It went really well, actually. I mean, what I love about Ryan, and it's just that his selections match my selections so well. We have exactly the same taste in music. I've been following him ever since I started DJing, and before that, so I know what he plays, and he's also inspired me in many, many ways. So it's always an honor to play with him, but also a pleasure, because I know that there's no unpleasant surprises. I know it just works out. So 2 days ago was amazing.
When did you guys connect? Because I guess the horror set was the first one you did together. Or what was the connection just to take the decision to collab?
So we've been in touch for a few years already, and also like sharing music with each other. But the first time we actually played together was at Multisex, like 2 years ago. We did the closing that should have been, like 6 hours, and we ended up playing 8 or something like that. So it was really like 8 hours felt like nothing. So that was the first time where it just really clicked and vibed. And then we did the Her set like a few months ago. It was also really nice, but yeah.
Well, since you mentioned this marathon set, I asked the same question to Ryan as well. So yes, I want to know what goes on in your mind during these long marathons in terms of like structure versus improvisation, because I asked him if he has like some, I guess like an arch to his like back to back, or is it everything just goes with the flow? So what's the case with you, especially maybe since you're a younger DJ, you're still experienced, but maybe not as much as him. So
for sure. No, I mean, how I always do it with my set is that I know pretty much where it's gonna start, or how I want the vibe to be at the beginning and how I want it to end. So in the middle, I kind of have like stacks of records that go in vibes, and with him I knew, okay, we start at the end, so we have to kind of start with banging, you know, and then maybe we can tell a story because we do have time. And that's also the nice thing, because he's so experienced, I knew exactly that he would know how to react to whatever I was gonna play. But I also like the challenge a little bit of like, oh, he played something that I didn't see coming, how do I tackle that? I think that's like the magic of playing back to back, this like spontaneousness, and then you actually go into direction that you haven't planned before. And also what I liked about this is because I play vinyl only, it also kind of triggers him to play vinyl. I told him, like, bring your records. He knows how to play them, and he doesn't play them often enough, in my opinion. So he challenged me in that way, or I challenged him in that way, and he challenged me in many other ways. So it's cool because it's like working together, challenging each other, creating something unique and special.
Well, you mentioned that you organize your vinyl box into like chunks or like various categories. So this is actually something I wanted to ask you. How do you actually prepare if you go and you have to take a plane and you just have like a limited capacity, say 100 records? So how do you approach? Because I guess, I mean, you need like some peak time, like some transition tracks, like some rhythm tracks or stuff like that. So you have like this kind of structure? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it depends a little bit. What's sometimes tricky with me is that I get booked for house sets, but I also get booked for techno sets, and I play vinyl only, if the turntables allow it, of course. So it's hard because you really need to kind of prepare, but you also want to leave you enough space for improvisation, because I mean, you want to see how the crowd adapts, and you want to be able to, you know, then steer set into that another direction. So I really make sure to bring, I don't know, like the peak time music, like warm-up music, and like maybe like calm down a little bit, and then some just in between fillers. But I do also just try to bring as much as I can and see on the fly how it goes and what I can. Yeah.
So in terms of selection, does it happen often that you actually do a mix between 2 tracks for the first time when you play live without ever trying it out?
All the time.
All the time. So it does,
mostly.
yeah.
I think I have like 5 transitions where I know these 2 tracks, they just belong together. It's like as if it was one track, and then I play them together. But other than that, I just really just... So for me, it's not that hard when I play with Ryan, because I mean, often I play new music that I haven't played before anyway. So it's also like playing with someone else's music, but it's obviously my own.
Now, maybe going back a little bit to your teenage years,
Yeah.
what was the main reason that you actually decided, not decided, but you just fell in love with vinyl? I guess it was something about our generation that this craze about vinyl began like 5-10 years ago, but what was it in your case?
I don't know exactly what the trigger was, but I mean, I've always been kind of obsessed with it. Like I remember going to flea markets, not even owning a vinyl player and already buying. I think it was also aesthetics and just having the records in your hand, you know. And then I think it was when I was, what was it, like 14 or 15, I received my first record player as a teenager. And I was so happy. And that's also when I started collecting a little bit of music, a lot of rock music, a lot of like alternative stuff. And then I started getting a bit more into electronica vibes. And then only when I moved to Amsterdam, or when I went to Amsterdam when I was 17 for the first time for a music festival, that is where I really discovered electronic music. And
Okay. So because one of the questions was that I wanted to ask you is also, did you have like any special epiphanies or like a singular moment when you actually decided this is something I want to do in my life?
Well, it wasn't really the singular moment. It was more of that moment, the process when I started going there thinking this is amazing and how it made me feel to go to these festivals. And then I moved to Amsterdam also for that reason, because it really did something to me. And then I just started going out every weekend and really experiencing it, the subgenres from electronic music, and really like finding the niche which I felt comfortable in, and that's where it's kind of did something to me.
What about your sound? I mean, it's obviously really eclectic and you have a really wide taste, but could you maybe pinpoint it? I mean, I know it's hard for DJs, especially if they have like they don't play a singular sound to box themselves.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe to some extent I would associate you with this like 2000s house techno, like in tech house maybe, but you don't play just that. So I mean, do you think about this? How you actually like, how do you develop your profile in terms of like sound?
So it's a good question. I think I always notice that when I buy music that it has to kind of trigger some sort of emotion and it has to have some sort of warmth. So also when I play techno, cannot play this like super hard industrial techno because for me it just doesn't have this warm groovy feeling that I seek.
Sorry, just a sub question. How did you experience this like this moment now in techno in the past 2 years, especially because it's been going really crazy in terms of speed and like the dark, distorted aesthetic? So
I think it's a trend like any other trend, and either it's your thing or not. I don't tend to follow trends anyway. I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's just not for me. It's not what I play, and I hope that it will develop into something else soon. But I mean, of course, everyone has their own taste, and they should listen to what they want. So I noticed that it's getting so fast, and often tracks are being played at a speed that they weren't produced at. So many elements just get lost. It's just about the like stomping part, and less about the elements that are in the track. So I don't like it so much, but that's personal.
Another thing that I wanted to ask you is also, I was wondering how the move from Amsterdam to Berlin influenced your sound, because I guess that you started to be exposed to much more music when you moved to Berlin, and I guess especially as a DJ, talking with DJs, it's often the case that you just go out, you see a great DJ playing and you're totally inspired and influenced by them. 100%. And so has this been the case with you as well?
Yeah, I mean, when I started in Amsterdam, I was really more in the minimal tech housey scene, let's say. And I mean, it was also the beginning for me as a DJ, so I knew there was a lot to explore, and that's also the beauty in music. I think you really go along with the years, you know, you rediscover some genres and some tracks or whatever, some labels that you haven't heard of before, and then you really like them and it influences your style. I think Berlin for me also was a lot about clubbing and going to these big institutions, you know, seeing big artists play incredible sets, and also just a trigger of going a little bit faster and maybe a little bit harder. And I mean, I've always loved techno music, always, even though I never played it at the beginning. But in Berlin, I felt more the lust for techno. I felt more like, okay, all the records that I have, let's also play them. So I went more into that direction. Also, the record stores are way more, or some of them are centered to around techno music, which you don't have so much in Amsterdam. So I think that also had an influence. I mean, I spent a lot of time in record stores, so yeah, that for sure helped.
What about like in general, in terms of reception of the audience? Is it different in Berlin? Because as well, I've been talking with various DJs and trying to figure out if the audience is built a bit differently in comparison with, say, Slovenia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, if you play like in Berlin, do you maybe even dare to play more adventurously or stuff like that? Or
I think with Berlin, I mean, it depends what venue, what floor, you know.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I would play different sets if I play Panorama Berlin, Berghain, of course. But in general, I always feel like it was kind of a playground. I could play and experiment a little bit, play whatever I want, and people or the crowd has been pretty receptive so far. So, but I do notice a difference in crowds, like when I go, even in cities, like when I go to Berlin or I play in Berlin and then I play, I don't know, somewhere in Hamburg, it's a different vibe, different crowd. So it's always interesting to see. Or like in the UK or in France, people really like to shout, and then in Poland, for example, they're very quiet.
yeah,
So it's hard at the beginning to understand, like, oh, maybe they don't like my music, you know, why are they so quiet? But I played the same track yesterday in France and people were shouting. It's just a different way of partying, I guess. And yeah, it's you just have to make sure to not make this let this affect you when you play, because I really get a lot of energy from the people. So when I notice when there's not a lot coming back, I tend to have difficulties because I'm not sure whether this is appreciated or how this is perceived, the music. So I really base my tracks or my track selection or whatever, the journey of the set based on the energy that I get from the crowd.
Final question. So what have you prepared? Is the selection similar to stuff you've been playing recently?
Yeah,
okay.
It's similar. I think for today I really wanted to play very groovy because I mean it's daytime party.
Did you see the photos of the location?
I did see the photos. I also heard really good stories from Ryan from last year with Evan. So it's a bit like pressure's on because last year apparently was amazing, you know. So I was like, I really need to deliver. But I brought like records that I know have this incredible, like very sexy, very like, whew, and also some just bangers. Just hands up in the air, let's go, party music.
I'm really looking forward because it's, to be honest, like this specific, like the Beat stage at Butik has become one of my favorite festival stages, honestly, because you have such a river just next to it. And also like yesterday we had like various DJs playing and like 100 people just dancing in the river. So it's
That's
like,
amazing.
so yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to your show today.
Me too.
Thanks for speaking.
Thank you so much.